She knows what she wants tonight. Moves fast like a neon tide. Confidence in every line. She's got style to find.
The Package. Chapter 7. Back in the penthouse, after Sarah Walker had slipped out, a seemingly unassuming waiter with a subtle, almost imperceptible scar above his left eyebrow approached the director. "Champagne, sir?" This was Lance Hunter, an unaligned, pragmatic former SAS operative currently working a deep cover job for S.H.I.E.L.D., infiltrating Centipede's lower echelons and working his way up. He hadn't seen Sarah's momentary access of the tablet, but he had noted the director's brief, lingering gaze on her. Sharp one, that bird, Hunter thought to himself, a flicker of professional respect and suspicion crossing his features as he moved to clear an empty glass. Too much composure for a socialite, and that accident felt staged. Definitely not one of Albright's usual hangers-on. He filed the observation away, a mental note to check for any new, unusual faces in Centipede's surveillance feeds later. His cover was paramount. The director's eyes, cold and analytical, fixed on the doorway through which Sarah had exited. She was an unwelcome variable. Her accident with the champagne was a well-executed ploy to create a distraction. He raised a discreet hand. "Wraith," he barked into his hidden comms piece, his voice barely audible to anyone but Hunter. "The woman in the black gown. Apprehend her. Bring her in. Do not engage her visibly on the street. Utilize non-lethal force. I suspect she has intel we wish to retrieve." Hunter felt a cold knot form in his stomach. An unknown operative already identified. This mission was getting complicated, and his own cover might be compromised if he didn't act perfectly. He moved away from the director, outwardly stoic, to attend to other guests, his mind already formulating a mental report for his S.H.I.E.L.D. contact. Sarah Walker felt the shift the moment she stepped back out onto the street. The air, already heavy with impending rain, seemed to crackle with a new tension. Her Intersect-enhanced senses, already on high alert, picked up the subtle movements. Two men, not Albright security, but Centipede, were moving swiftly, converging on her. They were discreet, but not discreet enough for her. "Casey, we've got company," she whispered into her hidden comms, already accelerating her pace towards their parked car. 2, maybe 3, Centipede. They're coming in hot. "Understood, Walker," Casey's gruff voice replied, the engine of her sedan rumbling. He pulled the car smoothly from the side street, aiming to intercept her. But Centipede was faster. As Sarah reached the corner, a dark van screeched to a halt, blocking Casey's approach. 2 more operatives, bulky and fast, spilled out, flanking her. "Casey, a little help!" Sarah yelled as she already broke into a run, her elegant gown hindering her slightly, but her training kicking in. She was faster than they anticipated, weaving through confused pedestrians. "Move, Walker, move," Casey roared. The sound of the engine roaring and grinding metal echoed as he sideswiped a car blocking his way. He had to clear the path. Sarah ducked into a narrow alleyway, the Centipede operatives hot on her heels. Her mind raced, processing escape routes, combat scenarios, contingency plans. She heard the thud of heavy boots behind her, the grunts of her pursuers. She skidded to a dead end, a towering brick wall. No way out. The operatives fanned out, closing in, their faces grim. One pulled a taser, its blue arc spitting in the dim light. "Apprehend her," one of them snarled. Before they could close the distance, Sarah executed a lightning-fast sequence of moves. She launched herself at the brick wall, finding purchase on a series of precarious pipes and ledges, scaling it with impossible speed and agility, the Intersect guiding her every hand and foot placement. She reached the roof, gasping for breath, just as the first operative reached the wall below. "She's on the roof," one of them shouted. "Casey, I'm on the roof, east side," Sarah transmitted, her breath ragged. Below, the alleyway erupted. Casey, having unsuccessfully reached Sarah, had spun his sedan around. He saw the operatives on the ground, pointing upwards. He saw the only escape route, the rooftops. "Hold on, Walker," he yelled, knowing his vehicle wouldn't reach her. He slammed the car into reverse, then forward, crashing it through a flimsy chain-link fence into an adjacent parking lot. He needed to find a way onto those roofs and fast. Sarah sprinted across the dark, gravel-strewn rooftop, the sounds of her pursuers echoing from below. She could hear them scrambling, looking for access. She needed to put distance between herself and them, to find a way down, to reconnect with Casey. She leaped across a narrow gap between buildings, landing precariously on a lower roof. She kept running, navigating the treacherous terrain of vents, skylights, and satellite dishes. The rain finally began to fall, a cold, stinging downpour that made the surfaces slick and treacherous. Suddenly, a figure appeared on the roof ahead of her, emerging from behind a large water tower. It was a centipede operative, blocking her path, his stance wide, clearly anticipating her movements. He held a high-powered taser rifle. Sarah didn't hesitate. She diverted, sliding on the wet gravel, narrowly avoiding a taser blast that sizzled past her ear. She kicked off a low wall, vaulting over a series of air conditioning units, desperate to create an opening. "Casey!" she called out again, but her comms crackled with interference from the driving rain and the urban environment. She was losing signal. She saw a fire escape spiraling down the side of the building ahead, her only way down. She launched herself towards it, just as her fingers brushed the cold metal railing. A sharp, searing pain exploded in her side. The operative had fired again, and this time the taser dart found its mark. Her muscles seized, her grip failed. She cried out as she lost her footing, tumbling over the edge of the roof, falling through the darkness and the pouring rain. "Walker!" Casey's roar was a distant, desperate sound as he finally found a service stairwell leading to the roofs, just as Sarah disappeared from view. He surged upwards, his rifle already out, a cold fury in his eyes. Sarah landed hard on a pile of trash bags in the alleyway below, the impact jarring, but cushioning her fall. The taser's electricity still coursed through her, leaving her disoriented, her limbs numb. She scrambled to move, to get up, but her body wouldn't obey. She heard the rapid thud of approaching footsteps, the centipede operatives descending from the roof. She was exposed, separated from Casey, and the clock was still ticking. 24 hours to EMP. The last 24 hours had been a blur of desperation and evasion for Sarah Walker and John Casey. The ambush on the rooftop had shattered their ability to deliver the critical intel to S.H.I.E.L.D. Sarah, though bruised and suffering from the lingering effects of the taser, had managed to evade capture in the alleyway, relying on sheer instinct and the blurred flashes of her Intersect-enhanced reflexes. Casey, having burst onto the rooftop seconds after her fall, had engaged the centipede operatives, creating a violent diversion that allowed Sarah to slip away into the labyrinthine streets. Separated in the chaos, they had spent the next day trying to reconnect, a perilous game of cat and mouse through a city suddenly crawling with centipede agents. Their usual comms were compromised, forcing them to rely on prearranged dead drops and coded signals, constantly looking over their shoulders. They knew the director's forces were actively hunting them, desperate to find out what information Sarah might know. The clock was ticking, a mere 24 hours now until the director's projected exodus pulse. Their mission to warn S.H.I.E.L.D. had failed, and now their survival and the future of the world hung precariously in the balance. They were two lone wolves, hunted and isolated, carrying the weight of a global catastrophe. Sarah was now dressed in nondescript civilian clothes scavenged from a charity bin. Her now battered evening bag was stuffed in a black backpack she'd gotten from the same bin. By luck, there was a street fair occupying the usually more lazy town center of the outer borough they had chosen. She moved like a phantom through a bustling market, her eyes constantly scanning, her senses attuned to every subtle shift in the crowd. But she purposely made just a few mistakes. She was bait, a calculated risk. They needed to draw Centipede out to create an opportunity to either find a secure line or force a confrontation on their terms. "Casey, I'm made," she whispered into her wrist comms, its signal encrypted and localized to a few blocks. "They're moving in from 3 o'clock. "I see them, Walker," Casey growled back, his voice tight. "Get ready to move." Suddenly, a hand clamped down on Sarah's arm. She spun, ready to engage, but the operative was too close, too fast. Another move to flank her. Their objective was clear: non-lethal apprehension. Just as the first operative tightened his grip, a blur of motion erupted from the bustling crowd. An agile yet robust man had suddenly materialized.
He moved with a brutal, efficient grace. He wasn't part of Centipede. It was Lance Hunter. He moved like a coiled spring, a whirlwind of calculated violence. He slammed a vendor's cart into the first Centipede operative, sending him sprawling into a fruit stand. As the second agent lunged for Sarah, Hunter's hand, moving with incredible speed, snatched a loose piece of piping from the cart. He swung it in a practiced arc, connecting with the operative's knee with a sickening thud. The agent crumbled with a grunt of pain. Sarah, momentarily stunned by the unexpected assistance, seized the opportunity. She delivered a swift, incapacitating kick to the throat of the remaining agent, sending him down. "Get out of here!" Hunter barked at Sarah, his voice low and urgent, his eyes darting to the remaining Centipede operatives, who were now converging, their discreet facade dropped. "They've got more coming!" He didn't wait for a reply. He pivoted, pulling a hidden blade from his sleeve, a large, wicked-looking Bowie knife. He plunged into the heart of the approaching Centipede agents, a one-man wrecking crew, drawing their attention, creating a violent, chaotic diversion. He wasn't subtle, but he was effective. "Who the hell was that?" Sarah muttered to herself, her eyes wide as she saw Hunter, amidst a flurry of precise, bone-jarring strikes, take down 3 more Centipede operatives, his knife a blur. "Doesn't matter, Walker, move!" Casey's voice snapped her out of her momentary shock. He had cleared a path with their sedan, now idling discreetly at the edge of the market. Sarah didn't hesitate. She ran, sprinting towards Casey's car. She glanced back once, seeing Hunter, a whirlwind of controlled fury, battling against overwhelming odds, buying them precious seconds. He was clearly a professional, a force of nature. She remembered the face, the waiter. She slid into the passenger seat as Casey stomped on the gas, peeling away from the chaotic market. The sounds of sirens, now undoubtedly alerted to the commotion, grew rapidly in the distance. "That was unexpected," Sarah commented, catching her breath. "Luck," Casey grunted, his eyes fixed on the rearview mirror. "But we owe him one. He just bought us a few hours. Let's make it count." "Luck?" Walker countered. They were free, for now, but the mystery of their unknown rescuer remained, and the countdown to Exodus Pulse continued to tick. 1 hour to EMP. The escape from the market had bought Sarah and Casey precious hours, but the clock was ticking relentlessly towards the director's Exodus Pulse. Their primary objective, Warning Shield, remained thwarted by the pervasive Centipede presence and the need to avoid any electronic transmissions that could be intercepted. They needed a secure line, a way to deliver a hard data package, and quickly. Every secure government line we try to ping is either saturated with Centipede chatter or dead, Sarah reported, her voice tight. "They've locked down the entire comms infrastructure in the Northeast." "Meaning they knew we'd try," Casey grunted, wiping grease from his brow. "They're waiting for us to make a move, to try and push this data out." He pointed to a faint blip on an old GPS unit they'd found at a pawn shop. "There's a defunct NOAA weather station, about 30 miles from here. Might have a line that's off Centipede's grid. Long shot, but our best one." They were operating on pure instinct and antiquated tech, a stark contrast to the NSA's usual high-tech operations. Their stolen vehicle, an inconspicuous model Casey had managed to hotwire in a deserted garage, bounced along forgotten back roads, avoiding highways, and trying to keep a low profile. As they drove through a sprawling abandoned industrial park, the vehicle suddenly sputtered, then died. Casey cursed, slamming his fist on the dashboard. "Damn it! Radiator must be shot," he muttered as steam poured from under the hood. Sarah's eyes scanned their surroundings. Deserted factories, crumbling concrete, a perfect hunting ground. "They're closing in, Casey. We're exposed." Suddenly, a distinct, rhythmic rumble of a diesel engine filled the air. Not a car. From behind a skeletal factory building, a large, dark black armored car, menacing and unmistakably centipede, rounded the corner. It wasn't the haphazard pursuit from before. This was a targeted trap. "How could they have found us so quickly?" Sarah spat. "They had made sure to keep a clean trail after the market." A homing beacon. She quickly checked the backpack, finding the transmitter in a half-zipped pocket. Centipede had used the chaos of the fight at the market to slip it into the bag. "Damn," Sarah stated, pulling her sidearm. Casey gave her a withering look. "Get ready, Walker," he growled, reaching for his own rifle. They were 2 against too many, cornered and out of options. Just as the centipede van halted and armed operatives began to spill out, a deafening roar split the air. Not a vehicle, a large, modified quadcopter, unheard until now, swooped low over the factory, its underside bristling with ordnance. It was Lance Hunter. He had been tracking them as well, not for Centipede, but for S.H.I.E.L.D. After relaying his initial intel to his handler about the suspicious woman at the director's meeting, and sensing the director's heightened alert, he had intuitively followed the trail of Centipede's increasingly frantic search. He recognized the tactical precision of their pursuit and had used the same homing beacon to track the unknown agents. His quadcopter, heavily modified and operating on its own discrete control system to avoid any Centipede electronic countermeasures, was his solution. The copter unleashed a volley of grenades that detonated with a series of sharp, blinding flashes. The Centipede operatives, caught in the blast, crumpled to the ground. The drone then swooped low, precisely dropping a sturdy extraction line directly beside Sarah and Casey. "Get on!" Hunter's voice, surprisingly clear, crackled from a small, hardened speaker attached to the drone's undercarriage. "No time for introductions. You've got intel I need to get to S.H.I.E.L.D." Sarah and Casey exchanged a look. Their mysterious rescuer, a voice that sounded almost British. And he knew they had intel. S.H.I.E.L.D. A piece of the puzzle dropped into place. Sarah instantly flashed on Hunter now that S.H.I.E.L.D. was mentioned. Sarah gave Casey a look that told him this guy was legitimate. Casey had suspected someone was pulling strings. He was right, and he was relieved to find it was one of the good guys. "Walker, you go first," Casey ordered, pushing her towards the line. Sarah didn't hesitate. She grabbed the grappling hook, clipping it securely to her belt, and gave a thumbs up. The copter began to ascend, lifting her smoothly into the night sky. As Casey reached for the line, 2 more Centipede vans arrived, screeching into the industrial park from different directions. More operatives jumped out, their attention immediately drawn to the quadcopter. "They're coming fast," Hunter's voice blared from the drone. "Casey, you need to move," Sarah yelled. Casey looked at the ascending Sarah, then at the rapidly approaching Centipede agents. "Go. Get her out of here. I'll hold them off." "Colonel!" Sarah yelled, suspended 50 feet in the air, but the drone was already pulling away. Hunter making the snap decision to prioritize the intel. He unleashed 1 more volley of grenades, taking out several Centipede operatives. Casey turned, his rifle raised, a grim determination in his eyes. He opened fire, providing cover fire, forcing the remaining Centipede agents to scatter, buying precious seconds for Sarah and Hunter to escape. He saw the flash of their weapons, heard the impact of bullets on the derelict car. The copter ascended rapidly, pulling Sarah higher. Below, the distant sounds of gunfire and sirens faded into the night. Sarah could see the glint of the stars and the approaching horizon of dawn.
10 minutes to EMP. The wind whipped around Sarah Walker as the drone ascended, pulling her away from the chaotic industrial park. Below, the distant crackle of gunfire slowly faded into the urban sprawl. Her mind was a whirlwind of worry for Casey, but her training, and the cold logic of the intersect, demanded she prioritize the mission. "Your S.H.I.E.L.D.?" Sarah shouted over the rush of the wind, her voice strained. More or less. And you've got intel that needs to get to them. Fast. No time for pleasantries, love. Just hold on tight. He piloted the drone with an unnerving precision, weaving through the darkened cityscape, heading purposefully towards the outer reaches of the metropolitan area. The drone, while powerful, wasn't built for long-distance travel, especially with an extra passenger. He was pushing its limits. "They're going to use an EMP," Sarah yelled, relaying the most critical piece of information first. "A global one. Project Exodus. It's Centipede's true objective." A moment of silence from Hunter, then a low whistle. "Well, that's a bit more than I was expecting. Explains why the director was so keen to get his grubby mitts on your pretty little head." He changed course, veering sharply towards a small, private airstrip on the outskirts of the city. "All right, change of plans. This drone won't make it to the playground with you on board. We need an actual plane. There's a private hangar ahead. Shield-friendly contact, or at least he owes me a few favors." They reached the hangar, a discreet, well-maintained building nestled among several other private aircraft. Hunter expertly brought the drone down, releasing Sarah, who immediately began helping him prepare a small executive jet. He worked with a frantic urgency, hot-wiring the comms, bypassing the regular flight plan protocols. "No time for a full brief. Just tell me the key points. Names, locations, objective. Everything." Sarah, working just as fast, connected a hard drive to the jet's secure satellite comms. Her Intersect-enhanced memory flooded her with the precise data. Director, Dr. Evelyn Shaw, General Riker, Site Gamma, Connecticut. A Chitauri-powered energy core designed to initiate a global EMP, Project Exodus. It's happening in hours. Hunter's eyes widened, a flicker of genuine shock crossing his face. Global? Holy hell! No wonder they've gone quiet on my end. They're cutting everyone off. He slammed his hand on the transmit button, sending a compressed, heavily encrypted data burst directly to S.H.I.E.L.D.'s main satellite link. It was a Hail Mary, a desperate plea for recognition through the encroaching static of Centipede's preparations. "Transmission sent," Hunter confirmed, turning to Sarah, his face grim. "Now we just need to get to the playground and hope someone picked it up. And prepare for a very bad day." Just as he finished speaking, the jet's internal lights flickered once, then died. The instruments on the cockpit panel went black. The low hum of the jet's auxiliary systems sputtered into silence. Outside the hangar, the distant city lights, once a vibrant tapestry, began to wink out, one by one, like candles extinguished by an unseen hand. The glow of Times Square, the beacon of the Empire State Building, the endless sprawl of streetlights, all succumbed to a vast, creeping darkness. Hunter and Sarah stared out of the hangar door, watching in stunned silence as the world around them literally went dark. "Too late," Sarah whispered, her voice hollow. "The global EMP. It had arrived." "Chuck!" Sarah whispered, her voice barely audible over the sudden, oppressive silence that fell. Her mind raced not about the mission, but about the apartment, the Buy More, Ellie and Awesome's house. Were they safe? Did they even know what was happening? The thought was a cold knot in her stomach. Ellie, Morgan, God, where are they? Back in the industrial park, John Casey was fighting a losing battle. He'd eliminated some Centipede operatives, but more were coming. He was pinned behind the derelict sedan, using it as meager cover, his rifle spitting fire. He heard their boots on the concrete. He was out of options, out of ammunition. He glanced up at the sky, a faint glimmer of desperate hope for Sarah. The drone disappeared into the pre-dawn sky, carrying her and the intel. Good. At least she made it, Casey thought out loud. Then the world went silent. The Centipede vehicles, moments ago roaring with menace, sputtered into silence, their headlights dying, the gun in the hand of the lead operative clicked, dead, the tactical lights on their vests extinguished. Casey, a hardened veteran of countless impossible situations, recognized the absolute quiet for what it was. Not just local. This was bigger. This was what Sarah had warned him about, the EMP. His own rifle, a simpler mechanism, was still functional. He saw the confusion on the centipede agents' faces, their sudden disarray as their advanced tech failed them. This was his chance. He burst from cover, moving like a phantom in the sudden darkness, his movements honed by years of combat. He was no longer trying to escape. He was trying to inflict as much damage as possible.
She's got style to find.